Welcome to More Than a Type, the podcast for emotionally aware women who are ready to stop overthinking and start taking action. I'm Amira.
And I'm Carol. We are DISC practitioners and mindset coaches.
Understanding yourself is powerful, but what you do with that insight is where real change happens.
Let's unpack the patterns, behaviors, and pressures that keep you stuck and give you tools to move forward with clarity, confidence, and purpose. You're more than a type.
Let's turn clarity into confidence
and confidence into action.
Today, we're focusing on the S-style woman in the DISC model. S-styles are steady, loyal, supportive women who thrive on harmony and connection. They're the glue that holds families, teams, workplaces, and communities together. But here's a challenge. When it comes to boundaries, S-style women often struggle the most. They don't want to upset anyone, so they keep saying yes until they're drained, resentful, and invisible.
So true. Boundaries are sensitive topics to the S, and already learning that I have to say no to protect my energy. I have to put myself first sometimes is challenging core beliefs.
This episode is massive for me.
So tell me, Amira, why are boundaries important?
You touched upon something that's really, really tough to talk about, especially in my life, Carol. To answer your question, boundaries are important because they give me the space to know where I end and where others begin. So I need to know where I am. What do I like? Where do I want to go? What do I want to wear? What do I want to eat? Those are my boundaries. But when other people start to tell me what to do, or tell me what to wear, or tell me what to say or think or expect, that's when I start losing myself and I just do what everybody else is doing. But deep inside, I feel that that's not what I want. So that's why I feel like boundaries are really important for me, because they tell me that this is me and this is what I want. And what the other person wants, that's for them. And that's okay. How about for you, Carol? Why are boundaries important?
Like you said, it's about knowing who I am. And I've been working with clients to help them discover who they are. And without boundaries, they are a little bit of everybody. We are all a little bit of everybody without boundaries. So in order to live an authentic life, Amira, I need to know who I am, who Carol is. And that's why we need those boundaries. The boundaries do not keep me away from community or my family. The boundaries are actually like a little fence that's running along the garden, my garden of life. And people on the outside get to see the beautiful flowers blooming without trampling on them.
Oh gosh, I love that, Carol. And it's really interesting how you bring in this reference or the metaphor of the fence, because I often see, or I often hear people talk about boundaries being a wall, that they just put the wall up and you can't come anywhere near that person.
That's a common misconception. That's not what it is.
And it causes disconnect, especially when someone like the S style or the I style, they're very much, their values are connection. So putting up a wall really disconnects you from that kind of person who values connection and presence in their life.
Yeah.
So here's a difficult question. And you're okay not to answer it, as we often tell our clients. How was growing up with boundaries for you? Did you have them?
In typical Asian families, boundaries do not exist. I remember growing up with my mom saying, what you do, what you say is a reflection on me. People, if you do something naughty, people will say I did a bad job parenting. So you see,
Yeah,
that's not true. It's not true at all.
yeah.
We all need autonomy. We all need to be able to say, this is who I am, this is what I do. And it's not a reflection on the person bringing us up or the person we live with or the person we marry. No, or even our children. No, it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up such important issues, Carol. And I totally understand because I too come from a Middle Eastern family where we do everything together.
Mm.
I grew up seeing my mom and my dad wear the same clothes, like they would wear twin outfits. What one wanted to eat had to be what the other one wanted to eat, and the same extended to us. I never could ask for what I wanted because I never knew what I wanted. I would just always ask my mom, what should I do?
Mm. When I learned about boundaries, it was scary, Amira. Scary to take that step to establish a boundary
Yeah,
because I thought that I would lose people. I would lose my family. I would lose my friends.
yeah, I've been there.
Mm.
And it is a courageous step to take. And I would venture as far as to say that my problems started happening in my life when things really became a problem in my 30s, is when I needed boundaries and I didn't have them. So that's where all the big problems happened in my life.
Mm.
It's because of the lack of boundaries.
Yeah.
And once I took that step of putting boundaries and understanding what was going on and how I needed to have my own voice in my own life to live, things quickly started going the way I pictured my life to be.
You. So what are boundaries, Amira?
Boundaries can look like many things. So, boundaries can be emotional. So, protecting how people speak to you. Boundaries can be physical. So, your body space, your environment, your things, your space, and things like your health, they're also physical boundaries. Time and energy is boundaries, protecting your schedule and your priorities and what you can do and what's above your capacity. And also relational, protecting how much you give to someone is also a boundary, and recognizing whether or not it's reciprocated. And that is across anywhere in your life, anywhere where you deal with people, whether in family, with your social life, or at home, or at work.
Mm. So boundaries are like a fence, like I said earlier, or property line. Your neighbor knows where your yard ends and where theirs begin. You know that as well. They don't just walk into your garden uninvited. Boundaries are that clear line, but for your emotional, mental, and physical world. Actually, when we're talking about physical world, Amira, let me share with you something that I just remembered. When I was a child, whenever we met with my grandma's friends or her cousins or whatever relatives, grandma would say, go kiss this auntie, go kiss that uncle. And it was like, it felt very uncomfortable because I didn't know these people. So this is me as a child, right? Um, or go sit on this uncle's lap. And it was very, very uncomfortable, but I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know that I could say anything.
Yeah.
So that's where a boundary was needed, but wasn't available.
Yeah. It is really important. It's important in terms of safety as well to teach our children how to be safe. And thank goodness schools are doing that now about stranger danger and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But within families, exactly what you've said. If someone you
Mm.
trust tells you you should go and do something, why not? I trust this person. And it
Mm.
isn't, unless you're that intuitive child. And sometimes there are children that say, no, I'm not going to do that. And God bless
And then
them.
get labeled naughty.
Yeah. Yeah. But what they're doing is they're honoring something that they don't even know, but they know is right, is not right, and they won't do it. So
Mm.
yeah, all the power to those children. We need more of them, and we need to start that for ourselves.
Yeah. So the lack of boundaries in this scenario was um cultural.
Yeah.
That's just how everyone was.
Yeah. And I'll also bring in this example, the emotional side of it. The emotional boundaries are something that we do really need to address because in my family, emotions were, you're not allowed to talk about being sad. If you're feeling sad, go to your room, be sad there, and then when you're ready to be happy, you can join the family. And
Mm.
it was almost like that my parents putting that boundary. They put that boundary and they taught me that you can't talk about anything unhappy.
Sounds very difficult. It's very difficult for a child to manage that.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are all the things that we grow up with that we have no choice. It's the families that we grew into. It's what we carry. We talk about this a lot. Our wounds that we carry, our baggage that we carry it along with us thinking that this is how life is. This is how everyone grows up. The fact of the matter is that everybody comes from a specific group of very special people, aka your family, who
Mhm.
carry generational baggage. And I don't want to say the T word here, generational
Mhm.
baggage. And we have patterns that we seem to recycle and continue until we see the pattern and break the pattern and grow.
I love that you've said all that because we really should get into the baggage as you said it. And let's explore in season two.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Carol.
Yay.
Let's take a look at boundaries through the disc lens. Let's have a look at how each style has a relationship with boundaries and how each style struggles differently with boundaries.
Mm. This is very interesting, really. The D styles, they bulldoze past their own limits. They say yes to responsibility and then collapse because they've taken on too much. The I styles, they avoid boundaries because they want to be liked. Saying yes is easier than risking disapproval. And for the S styles, they avoid boundaries to keep harmony. They don't want to upset anyone, so they quietly carry that extra. And the C styles resist boundaries because of perfectionism. They think if I want it done right, I'll do it myself.
I want to say that being liked and trying to keep the harmony is like a dangerous combination because I've seen that in my life. So my mom is like an amazing, mom that gets everything done and looks after my dad and looks after the house and checks up on her daughters and checks up on her grandchildren. And I've asked her before. I said, "Mom, have you had a day? Have you done something that you wanted to do today?" And she says, "Oh, I've got to look after the grandkids and they've got to be happy. And, your father wants this done. So it's best to have this done." So I feel my mom like a little, I feel like my mom's like a little worker bee, and my mom is, in her 70s and she still feels the pressure of wanting to do things for her grandkids and wanting to keep the harmony in the house. And I see her working all day, and by the end of the day she's tired and she's starting to have back issues. And I feel like it's a boundary issue here where she can say, I am having problems with my health, so I need to do a little less, and we're working on it.
Mm. Sounds a lot like my mom as well. In my mom's case, I'm so glad that she's learned to say no. She's learned to set some boundaries, especially when it comes to her health. Of course, this is with us, me and my brother, giving her a hard time whenever she's got leg pain. We tell her to just sit, don't do anything. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a learning curve. It's something that needs to be repeated a few times before the S's actually hear it and take action.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We're working on it with my mom as well. And a gentle question I always ask her is, if you could sit down, what would you prefer to do?
Mm,
And she'll easily find many things that she'd rather do. So it's just kind of a reminder to reconnect back to herself
mm,
and just to let others go. So, knowing that S women don't set boundaries because they're worried about how others will see them, let's have a look at how not setting a boundary or staying silent is perceived by the other styles.
Oh, this is interesting. To a D style. When an S doesn't set a boundary, the D may see her as weak, indecisive, and when she finally does speak up, the D might be shocked, thinking, "Where did that come from?" They they miss that her quiet is actually thoughtfulness or her processing the information.
I find that super interesting, Carol, because this is my father. When my mom finally snaps and says, "We are not going to this place. I can't handle it anymore. I can't walk or I can't." My dad looks at her as if, like, where did that come
Mhm.
from?
Yeah. So the S will take on whatever, will pile on and pile on and pile on the S until cannot take anymore, and then they just burst out.
And then she feels guilty. But we'll talk about
The,
that at another
the
time.
the S feels guilty, the D feels, oh my gosh, where how what happened?
Yeah. Yeah. Where'd that come
Yeah.
from?
To an I style, when an S keeps saying yes, the I just assumes she's fine. But when the S eventually sets a boundary, the I might take it personally and ask questions like, why is she pulling away? When in reality, the S was already overextended. The I was just oblivious to it.
Yeah, and that has, if I can bring in an example here, that's created a lot of rift at work where there's someone who's, I'll be the one who does the medical comp. I'll be the one doing meds. I'll do this, I'll do that. And then when that person is on every shift, straight away they're like, oh, she's doing the medications. She'll do the medications. She'll do the medications. And then finally that person, and I'm speaking about a very specific person that we know at work, when she finally said, "I'm so tired of doing that. I want to do other tasks as well." Everyone's like, "Come," and they take it personally instead of saying, "Well, thank you. She's done it all these other
Mm.
times. Maybe we can step up."
Mm. To another S style, a fellow S may admire the loyalty, but also silently worry. She's giving too much. I hear this. I mean, we can see it in another person, but it's so difficult to see it in
Mm,
ourselves. So the S will worry
mm,
about the people around them. And when the S sees another S taking on too much or doing too much or carrying too much, they would get worried. They would
mm.
want that person to say no. And when that person actually says, no, I can't do it anymore, then they realize that, hey, you know what? I can say no as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important. And it's important to notice that when you're worrying about others taking on too much, that's a really good point for you to stop and look at how much you're carrying
Mm.
because you're seeing in others what's happening in yourself. So, just a little note there. When you start worrying about others taking on too much, check in with yourself.
Very good advice, Amira. To the C style, when an S avoids boundaries, the C can see her as too soft or emotional. But when she calmly asserts one, the C often respects it because it shows consistency and reliability, which the C values highly.
Yeah, and I'm smiling here because I have an example for
Oh,
you. Like I mentioned earlier, my husband is a high C, and I'm pretty emotional. And just every time one of my boys would say, "Oh, mom, I'm sick. I want to stay home," I'd be like, "Yes, honey, that's fine." And my husband would often roll his eyes until we got to high school. Until we got to high school. And I said, no, they can't be missing this. It's fine in primary school, all good. In high school, we have exams and marks matter. And so then I started to talk to my children about resilience and how showing up is really important. And it doesn't have to be 100% day. We can start with just showing up and just do your best from there. And from then on, I feel like my husband like looked at me like, well done. Yeah, and that's why boundaries feel really risky when you're in your S energy. And when we talk about S energy, we just talk about it's that time when you're nurturing and caring and connecting and feeling harmonious with the people around you. Because when you start putting boundaries or saying no, you're going to fear that you're breaking the harmony of the group. But in reality, when you set your boundaries with calm clarity, you can earn respect, not lose it.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. That's right. Boundaries and the S energy. There's resourceful, there's unresourceful. Picture this. You're in your S energy in a group of friends. Everyone wants to say, "Oh, we should get together. Let's organize a get together." But no one volunteers to do the work. Everybody's in the chat saying, "Oh, we should get together," but nobody's doing the work. So you take it upon yourself. You know nobody else is going to do it. So you say, "All right, fine, I'll do it." You go through all the work by yourself, and you feel resentful because no, everyone just takes advantage of it, takes advantage of the fact that you are doing it. Nobody's offering to help. Nobody's acknowledging the work that you're putting in. That's unresourceful.
And if we were to look at that exact situation, but from a resourceful point of view, so there's a group of people who are trying to get organize a get together, but no one's volunteering. This same woman who is caring and nurturing and wants to get together with her friends takes a deep breath and thinks to herself, oh, I'd love to do this, but really, I'm already at capacity. If this is that important, I'm going to have to dump something that I'm already doing to take this on. And then you can either decide to do that or not, but you don't have to take it on. Similarly, you could also voice this and go, guys, if we all take a task, we can make it easier for the group, but I know I'm already at capacity, so I can't do everything. So is there someone here who wants to split the task? This way, you're calm, you're clear, you're respectful of yourself and your energy. And suddenly, your quiet presence really carries authority and leadership.
Mm. You're absolutely right, Amira. Sometimes, when we're in that situation, we think that we have to do everything, but actually we don't. Maybe what we need to
Mm.
do is take on a leadership role in that instance and say, hey, you know what? Um, A, you do this. B, you do that. Delegate.
Mm.
You don't have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. And you bring up such an important point, Carol, because just by saying that, you have shifted your S energy into your D energy, which is that focused, it's got a clear vision, and its strategy is delegation.
Mm. So this way you shift from silent sacrifice to confident steadiness.
I love it. So, how do you start building boundaries without guilt or collapsing and taking on the load? Let's break it down into 5 practical shifts.
All right. Number one, clarify your limits before communicating them. You can't set a boundary you don't know about. Start by
Mm.
I remember I told you the story about kissing my aunties and uncles.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
didn't know I could set a
that's right.
boundary there.
That's right.
Right. So start asking what drains me, what feels off when I say yes. We often sense others' needs better than our own. So flip it. Journal,
Mm.
reflect, notice where you feel resentful. That's usually where a boundary is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting, Carol. I just thought of an example here. We used to go over to my parents every Saturday a while ago. We don't do it anymore. And every time we went over there, as we were driving, my husband would say, oh, I've got a headache. And I noticed it every single Saturday going to my parents' house for dinner and tea afterwards. My husband would always have a headache. And so I asked him, I said, what about this is upsetting you? What could be something that's upsetting you? And he just said, oh, everyone talks in a different language. The kids get all ruly and they're handstands and cartwheels, and your dad gets in the mixture. And then there's grandfather wrestling on the floor, and he goes, it's really loud, and it's the end of the day, and I want some quiet time. And so I noticed he was talking about his boundary being violated, so to speak.
mm,
So what I started doing then was we started shifting it so that I would go see my parents by myself on Friday mornings when I had a free time. And so I felt like that was a time where I could see my parents and we could chat about things that we needed to do. But I didn't have to drag my husband into this big saga where kids started wrestling with their grandfather and things becoming an unhappy Saturday night instead of a happy Saturday night.
mm. I think awareness is so important because once you know where you need a boundary, then we can work around it.
Yeah,
Mm,
so true. So here's another tip. When you do say no, keep it simple. And instead of over apologizing, I'm so sorry, I can't organize this. I'm so sorry, I can't take this on. I feel so bad, I can't do this. Try instead, I won't be able to take that on. Use I language that is firm and respectful, and just realize that no is a complete sentence. So I can give you an example here. Oh, why can't you do this? But I can't.
mm,
So you have to respect what I can do and what I can't do. And don't feel sorry, don't feel guilty for saying, I don't want to wash your hair, or I don't want to cut your toenails, or I don't want to do that. Like, this is what happens at work. People, you need to cut that person's toenails at work, and people are like, I don't want to do that. And I'll be like, that's fine. I'll take it. I'll take over that task because that person's grossed out by it, by whatever the task is. So I take it on. And so that person just has showed you that they have a
mm,
boundary. I can't take that on.
mm,
And you don't have to be sorry for it. Maybe you're disgusted by cutting people's toes. Maybe you have foot problems. I don't know. It's really interesting because sometimes what we do is we think that everyone thinks like
mm,
us. Everybody should do what we
mm,
do. So it's interesting how, and what I said earlier was a boundary is about letting people know that this is me and this is what I do and this is what I
mm,
want. So when someone says, I'm sorry, I can't do that, it's just showing you that that person has a different set of values or rules or boundaries that I might not know
mm,
about, and they don't have to be sorry for it.
mm.
They just have to make it
Yeah,
known, and others have to respect it.
yeah.
And the whole thing is, yeah, to be free of guilt and just say I can't,
Mm,
and offering an alternative. Like, if you do this for me, I can then do that. Or like I gave in my example, I can't do it on this day because I have different set of obligations, but I'm not going to say that. I don't need to justify to people. So I just say, I can't do it. How about 2 weeks from Friday?
mm,
Or how about next weekend?
mm,
So I've given a helpful way forward
mm,
that I can do, just not the day that you want.
mm. That's really interesting. But also, I think maybe a little bit outside the comfort zone for an S.
Yes, of course.
So we need to take small steps, right?
Of course.
And that's the third tip: build boundary muscle with small steps. Don't wait for the big crisis. Start with micro boundaries, like turning off notifications on your phone after 8 o'clock, or saying no to that extra coffee in the evening, or inviting people you don't want to
Mm,
your party.
yeah, that's really good. I like your term of micro boundaries. We can do micro things.
Mm,
And saying no to the little things helps you say no to the big ones. So every little no strengthens your nervous system. And over time, you'll be ready for the big things that you need all your strength to say no to.
mm. Yes, building the no muscle.
Yes. So step number 4 is to reframe no as self-respect instead of selfishness. It's really a mindset shift. Every no is also a yes. When you say no to overextending, you're saying yes to health, to rest, to being fully present later on in the day.
Yes, I like this. I remember one of my S-style clients. She's the sweetest young lady, always concerned about the other person, always wanting to help. She would drive 30, 40, 50 kilometers out of her way to pick a friend up to go for a party. You know, that kind of person.
Mm.
When we spoke about boundaries, she started to see how it was affecting, how not having boundaries was affecting her own energy. So by saying no to certain things, she was actually able to say yes to bigger things that meant more to her.
Yeah, that's great. And I remember someone telling me that it's not selfish, it's self-ish.
I like that.
So you're thinking of yourself.
So the next tip is expect discomfort and know it's
Mm.
part of the process. Because the hardest truth is this: boundaries feel uncomfortable to start with.
100% agreed.
People might push back, but from my own experience, Amira, like I said earlier, starting to establish boundaries was scary because I thought people would pull away from me, people would stop wanting to be my friends. But I think people who value me, who value what I bring to their lives, chose to stay on despite the boundaries, or maybe in spite of the
Yeah,
boundaries, or maybe because of the boundaries,
yeah,
because they saw who I was in my core, who I really
yeah.
was. But for me to take that step, the first step especially, oh, my nervous system acted up. My heart was racing. My mind was going, you're going to lose everybody. You're going to lose everybody. But I went
Mm.
through with it and it was good. Now that I've done
Yeah,
this many, many times, it's so much easier to set the boundaries. It's so much easier to say, to see when somebody's gone over a boundary, or to see where I need boundaries. It gets so much easier with practice.
that's really great, Carol. I'm hoping that people are hearing the sincerity in your tone, that you feel more like yourself and more confident when you do set your boundaries. And just imagine this. Imagine a young woman, a young teenager who feels like she needs to please everybody and knowing that there are people around you
Mm,
that really don't care about you, but you want them in your life. Making sure that you have boundaries removes those
yeah.
toxic people from your life. And really, you're left with a beautiful core of people that are worth investing your time in as friends.
Yes. I love that. That was so nicely said.
So, this week, reflect on one moment where you gave your energy away. Ask yourself, did I actually want to say yes? What would a boundary have sounded like here? That awareness is the first step to change.
And when you try it, tune into your body. Notice how your body is responding to it. Notice the other person's response. Did you see surprise? Or was it respect? Or maybe even relief? Those little signals tell you your quiet strength is finally being felt.
And so, what happens when you see people's discontent at your boundaries, Carol?
Have you heard of Mel Robbins' let them theory? Let them.
Oh,
Let
yes.
them be unhappy. Let them be dissatisfied. Let them pull back. Because at the end of the day,
Yes.
Amira, the people that truly matter in your life will respect your boundaries.
Because boundaries without breakdown aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting what makes you so valuable: your steadiness, your care, your loyalty. Thanks for joining us for More Than a Type.
If today's conversation resonated, please like, share, and leave us a review. It helps more women discover the show.
And we'd love to hear from you. What's one boundary you've been afraid to set? Share it with us. Your story might feature in a future episode.
Next time, we'll be diving into episode 10. Change is hard, but you're stronger than you think. Until then, keep leading with clarity
And living with purpose.